Welcome to a very special game of Clonehead Commander, where we battle the out-of-the-box Commander 2014 decks. We could have just played a normal game with these decks, but you know that just isn't our style. Since the decks are monochromatic, we decided to implement star magic rules, meaning each color only needs to kill its enemy colors. Kevin wins the die roll, playing Peer Through Time, with Teferi, Temporal Archmage Planeswalker, as his commander, with this as his opening hand. Chip goes next, playing Sworn to Darkness, with Ghoulcaller Giza creature as his commander, with an opening hand of these cards. Stevie is next, playing Built from Scratch, playing Daretti, Scrap Savant Planeswalker as his commander, with an opening hand of this. Jim goes next, playing Guided by Nature, with Freyalise, Llanowar's Fury as his commander, and an opening hand of this. Finally, we have Rob playing Forged in Stone, using Nahiri, the Lithomancer Planeswalker, as his commander, with this for his opening hand. So everyone but Chip is using Planeswalker commanders. Either way, no one takes any commander damage this game. The Commander 2014 decks do come with their own tokens, which is nice. Also, games with these decks have a tendency to last a while, much longer than the normal games you see from us. I'm sad to say that no Planeswalkers go ultimate this game. Also this game, I'm going to provide more in-game commentary, alliances that spring up along the way, and so forth. Kevin starts the game by playing Island. Chip plays Barrenmoor. Stevie plays Mountain. Jim plays Forest and is the only player with the turn 1 play with Essence Warden. Rob plays Plains. Kevin plays Island and then casts his first piece of acceleration with Sky Diamond. Chip plays Swamp. Stevie plays Mountain and then casts Epocher Sight. Jim gains 1 life with his Elf. Jim plays Forest and deals first blood of the game by attacking Chip for 1 with his Essence Warden. Rob lands Plains and casts his first equipment of the game with Swiftfoot Boots. Kevin casts Commander Sphere and plays Remote Isle. Out of land, Chip begrudgingly plays Bojuka Bog, exiling Jim's non-existent graveyard. Stevie plays Phyrexia's Core and attacks Rob for 1 with his artifact. Jim cycles Tranquil Thicket at the end of Stevie's turn. Jim plays Forest and attacks Chip for another 1 due to Chip's anti-green talk. Rob sets down a Plains and passes. Kevin plays Island and casts Everflowing Chalice kicked 3 times, and then taps it to cast Unstable Obelisk, all the acceleration. Chip misses his 4th land drop, but casts Flesh Carver, which is pretty good at attacking Planeswalkers. Jim gains a life from the Essence Warden. At the end of Chip's turn, Stevie sacks Epocher Sight with Phyrexia's Core to gain a life and exile Epocher Sight with 3 time counters on it. Stevie casts Faithless Looting, discarding Bosch Iron Golem and Loreseeker Stone. Stevie plays Mountain and casts Felden of the Third Path, gaining Jim a life and riling up Red's enemies, Kevin and Rob, who vow to do something about it. Jim plays Forest and casts Barhaven Elf, gaining a life and putting Forest onto the battlefield, which pleases Rob that both of his allies are ramping so much. Jim then attacks Rob's other ally. At the end of Jim's turn, Rob sends Felden to the afterlife, giving Stevie a 1/1 Flying Spirit. Jim gains 1 life. On his turn, Rob casts Soul Ring and casts Nahiri, the first commander and Planeswalker of the game. Rob pluses Nahiri, making a core soldier and attaching Swiftfoot Boots to it. Stevie and Chip conspire to kill the Planeswalker. Rob attacks Stevie for 1 with his hasty creature. With a ridiculous amount of mana, Kevin takes his turn. Kevin casts his commander and then +1s Teferi, Sleight of Handing. Chip plays Swamp and casts Necrotal, gaining Jim a life and then killing the Essence Warden. Chip confers with his allies and then decides to attack Nahiri for 2 with his Flesh Carver. Stevie plays Ghost Quarter and then casts Beetleback Chief, getting 2 goblins. Stevie attacks Nahiri for 1 with his Spirit. Jim plays Ghost Quarter and then casts Titania, Protector of Argoth, wanting to get a land back from his graveyard, but instead Kevin dismisses it, countering the powerful legend and drawing himself a card. Jim attacks Teferi for 1. Rob plays Plains and pluses Nahiri, making another soldier. Rob passes. Kevin plays Island and pluses Teferi, putting another card into his hand. Kevin plays Storm Surge Kraken and Muldrifter, drawing 2 cards. Chip plays Swamp and then plays a Planeswalker of his own, Obnixilis of the Black Oath. Chip uses Obnob to make a 5/5 demon. Chip then attacks Nahiri for 2 with Flesh Carver, and Jim for 2 with his Necrotal. Stevie casts Apocryphite during his upkeep from Exile, which comes into play with 3+1 counters. Stevie plays Mountain and cycles Smoldering Crater. Stevie casts his Commander and attacks Nahiri with his Apocryphite, which Rob blocks with a Soldier. Stevie minuses Daretti, sacking his Construct to return Bosch to the table. Stevie exiles Apocryphite with 3 time counters. Jim continues his streak of only tabling very small creatures with Sylvan Ranger, finding and playing a forest when it enters. After the board gets cleared by a Blasphemous Act by Stevie, who also casts Caged Sun for red, Jim on his turn sacks Haunted Fengraf and randomly returns Sylvan Ranger to hand, which was probably the worst thing he could have gotten. At the end of Jim's turn, Rob casts Midnight Haunting, putting 2 1/1 Flying Spirits onto the battlefield. Rob pluses Nahiri, making a soldier and equipping Swiftfoot Boots to it, and then attacks Chip for 3 with his creatures. Kevin plays Island and Sleight of Hands with Teferi. Kevin casts Deep Sea Kraken, and then casts a face-down creature. Chip casts Dread Return, returning Grave Titan to the battlefield. Chip plays Everglades, returning a swamp to hand. Stevie plays Mountain and casts Mirror Battlesphere, making 4 1/1 mirrors when it enters. Stevie recasts Deretti and uses it to exchange a mirror token for Lore Seeker Stone, not having much of a hand at the moment. Jim cycles Slippery Karst at the end of Stevie's turn. Jim plays Forest and casts Beastmaster Ascension. Now all he needs is creatures. Rob plays Plains and casts Skyhunter Skirmisher and equips it with Boots. Rob attacks Daretti with the Spirit and Chip with the Skirmisher, killing Daretti and dealing 2 damage to Chip. Rob pluses Nahiri, making a soldier, and equipping it with Boots. Kevin plays Island and pluses Teferi once again. Kevin plays Mind Stone and releases his Kraken on Stevie's face, dealing him 6 damage. Kevin plays a second face-down creature. Chip plays Swamp and attacks Jim with Grave Titan, making 2 more zombies. Jim blocks the Titan with his Elf. Chip casts Drana, Calastria Bloodchief, and uses it to give Rob's Skyhunter -1, killing it. Stevie removes the last time counter from Apocryphite during his upkeep and casts it. Stevie activates the Lore Seeker Stone for 4 with 1 card in hand and draws 3 cards. Stevie plays Temple of the False God and casts Tyrant's Familiar. In response, Jim sacks a forest with Harrow and then puts 2 forests onto the table. At the combat step, Kevin sacks his Obelisk, shooting and killing Stevie's Familiar. Stevie attacks Kevin's Teferi with his Battlesphere and taps 3 mirrors, dealing Teferi another 3 damage and boosting the Battlesphere. Kevin casts Domineering Will, targeting Apocryphite, Zombie, and Core Soldier, and triple block the Mirror Construct, killing all 4 creatures. and exiling a Pocket once again. Stevie casts Mirror Retriever and passes. Jim plays Forest and casts Assault Suit, which is not very good in Star Magic. Jim then casts Loreseeker Stone, which is much better. Rob plays Plains and finally casts his second equipment, Moonsilver Spear. Rob casts the spear and pluses Nahiri to make a soldier and equip the spear to it, and then equips it with Swiftfoot Boots. Rob attacks Stevie with the suited up soldier, making an angel. Stevie blocks with his retriever, killing it and returning Battlesphere to his hand when the retriever dies. Rob then moves equipment around onto his angel. Rob passes the turn, and at the end of his turn, Kevin morphs Fathom Seer, returning 2 islands to hand and drawing 2 cards. Kevin plays Island on his turn and casts Fog Bank, and attacks Stevie with his Kraken once again. Kevin pluses Teferi, adding a card to his hand. Kevin casts Sphinx of Dwar Isle, and casts another face-down creature. Chip attacks Jim, putting him to 25, and makes more zombies when the Titan attacks. On his turn, Stevie casts his second board wipe of the game with Incite Rebellion, dealing damage to each player and each creature that player controls equal to the number of creatures they control. Again, completely hosing his ally, the black player. Kevin flips his Zoetic Cavern so that it doesn't die. All of Chip's creatures die. Stevie again exiles his Apocryphite. Kevin loses his face-down creatures, but keeps his unblockable Kraken. Rob keeps his Angel, and Jim still has no creatures. Stevie deals damage to Kevin and Rob's Planeswalkers, killing Teferi, but Nahiri survives. Stevie recasts Mirror Battlesphere, again getting 4 Mirror tokens. Jim finally gets a relevant play with Soul of the Harvest, which, sadly for Jim, does not stick around that long. Rob attacks Stevie for 4 with his Angel and makes another Angel with the Spear trigger. Rob equips the untapped Angel and pluses Nahiri to make a soldier, but not equip it with anything. Kevin attacks Stevie on his turn, trying to take one of his enemies out of the game by bringing Stevie to 10 life. Kevin recasts his commander and uses it to draw, which he does every single time with Teferi. But I guess when you have that much mana, you don't really need to untap things. Kevin then casts Ixodron, turning all of their non-token creatures, including Jim's Soul of the Harvest, face down. Tired of his allies' constant board wipes, Chip plays Arcane Lighthouse, activates it, and then casts Dregs of Sorrow, killing both of Rob's Angels and drawing him 2 cards. Stevie cycles Forgotten Cave at the end of Chip's turn. On his upkeep, Stevie removes a time counter from the Apocryphite, draws a card for turn, and then casts Panic at the Spellbomb. Also, with 1 card in hand, Jim pays 4 mana and activates Loreseeker Stone to draw 3 cards. Stevie casts Jalum Tome, Stevie pays 8 mana and recasts Daretti and then pluses it to rummage twice. Stevie casts Ruby Medallion and then evokes Spite Bellows to kill Kevin's Ixodron. Stevie then attacks Teferi for 2 with his face down Battlesphere, and Nahiri for 2 with his 2 mirrors. Jim plays Forest and casts Soul Ring and then recasts his commander, Freyalise Llanowar's Fury, and then pluses it to make a Llanowar Elves, and then casts Ren's Run Packmaster, championing the Elves. Jim attacks Chip for 2 with the Soul of the Harvest, putting him to 23. On his turn, Rob draws Commander Sphere, not doing so much so he sacks it, also inspiring Kevin to sack his Commander Sphere. Finally drawing Rob into something ungodly with Cathar's Crusade, while holding Martial Q in hand. Rob casts the Crusade and then pluses Nahiri, making yet another soldier and pumping his soldiers. Rob auto-equips the Moonlight Spear to the soldier and then equips it with Swiftfoot Boots, and then attacks Chip for 3 because when the soldier attacks it makes another Angel and then pumps his team even more. Kevin plays Island and then pluses Teferi. Kevin casts Hoverguard Sweepers, returning his own Deep Sea Kraken to his hand, and it wouldn't be a turn if someone didn't host the green player, bouncing Jim's Packmaster. Kevin then taps out to recast the Kraken. Chip casts Phyrexian Gargantua, drawing 2 cards and losing 2 life. Chip passes, and Stevie draws 3 cards with Lore Seeker Stone. Stevie recasts Apocryphite during his upkeep. Stevie plays Mountain and casts Ichor Wellspring, drawing a card. Trying to find something playable, Stevie activates Jalem Tome, drawing a card and pitching a land. Daretti welds Ichor Wellspring, drawing a card when the Wellspring dies, and then returns Bosch to the battlefield. Stevie casts Pentavis. On his turn, Jim finally contributes by casting Predator Flagship, and then gives Kevin's Kraken flying, and one of Rob's soldiers flying, just to help out Stevie, and then casts Whirlwind, destroying all creatures with flying and proving that that card can actually be good sometimes. Jim then pluses Freyalise and makes an elf. Jim then attacks Teferi for 2 with his face down creature. On his turn, Rob casts Martial Q for 10. With blue tapped out, Stevie is the only one who responds, everyone fearing Rob is about to win the game. Stevie pays 6 mana to draw with Lore Seeker Stone. Not finding anything, the coup resolves, making Rob 10 soldiers and destroying everything else. The soldiers get plus 10 counters. Rob then makes a soldier with Nahiri and pumps his creatures again. Nahiri equips Moonsilver Spear. Kevin pluses Teferi and starts to form a temporary alliance with Stevie just until Rob's soldiers are dead. Kevin casts Intellectual Offering, drawing Stevie and Kevin 3 cards and untapping some permanents. Kevin casts Riptide Survivor face down and then morphs it, pitching 2 cards and drawing 3. Kevin passes. In one of his most relevant plays of the game, Chip plays Swamp and then casts Black Sun Zenith for 9, killing all of the creatures and reducing Rob's creatures to 2/2s, leaving it up to Stevie to deal with the rest of the soldiers. Stevie Jalem Tomes at the end of Chip's turn. Stevie casts Flametongue Kavu, dealing 4 damage to one of Rob's soldiers. Deretti rummages. Stevie finds and casts Bogart and Hellkite, killing 2 more tokens and removing a loyalty counter from Nahiri. Stevie casts Swiftfoot Boots and equips it to the Hellkite and attacks Nahiri for 6, almost killing it. Stevie loots with Jalem Tome and sacks Panic Spellbomb to draw a card. Stevie casts Impact Resonance, dealing 6 damage and killing 3 more soldiers. On Jim's turn, he casts Rampaging Baloths and plays a Forest, making a 4/4 beast. Jim pluses Freyalise, making another elf. Jim equips Assault Suit to the Baloths, at least giving it haste, and then attacks Teferi for 8, killing the Planeswalker. Jim puts another counter on Beastmaster Ascension. At the end of Jim's turn, Stevie Chaos Warps Rob's Cathar's Crusade, shuffling it back into Rob's library and revealing and putting Immobilization onto the battlefield. Rob casts Masterwork of Ingenuity, making a copy of Moonsilver Spear, and then pluses Nahiri to make a soldier, and equips one of the spears to it. Then equips the other spear to it, and then equips boots to it. Then all attack Chip and have Vigilance. Chip takes 9 damage and goes to 9 life. Rob makes 2 angels and leaves mana up for mobilization. Kevin plays Island and casts another face-down creature. On Chip's turn, Stevie ghost quarters his own mountain to get a mountain in order to try to thin out his deck. Chip casts Zathran Demon and finally casts his commander. Stevie plays Mountain and casts Unstable Obelisk and Soul Ring. Stevie casts Pristine Talisman and taps it for mana and a life. Stevie then casts Goblin Welder and equips it with Swiftfoot Boots. Welder welds the tome for Bosch. At the end of Stevie's turn, Jim activates Lore Seeker Stone for 4 mana and draws 3 cards. Also at the end of Stevie's turn, Kevin flips his Brine Elemental, skipping Jim and Stevie's untap steps next turn. Jim pluses Freyalise and makes another elf. Jim attacks Kevin for 4 with his Beast token, dealing Kevin 4 damage and triggering his Beastmaster Ascension yet again. Rob makes 2 soldiers with mobilization at the end of Jim's turn. Rob attacks everything at Stevie, making 2 more angels. Stevie blocks an angel with his dragon, and a soldier with his Kavu, and sacks his Pristine Talisman with Bosch, and bashes a soldier with it, putting him to 2, taking 9 damage total. Rob makes a soldier with his commander and passes. Kevin casts Well of Ideas and draws 2 cards. Kevin casts Seagate Oracle and still Sleight of Hands this turn, despite his commander being dead. Kevin casts another face-down creature. On his upkeep, Chip sacks Giza to his demon and loses Jim and Rob 3 life to the demon effect. Chip attacks Jim for 7 with his demon. Chip then casts Profane Command for 11, losing Jim 11 life and returning Grave Titan to the battlefield, making 2 zombies. Stevie does not untap on his turn, but does cast Pockersight from exile once again. Stevie plays Arcane Lighthouse. With not much he can do, Stevie casts Bitter Feud, choosing Jim and Kevin in order to try to give Jim one last chance of taking Kevin out. On his turn, Jim gives 3 of his guys flying with Predator Flagship, and then attacks Kevin with all of his creatures, triggering and making his Ascension live, meaning that Jim is attacking for 72 damage. Trying to think of an alternate way out, Kevin realizes that he must Cyclonic Rift Overloaded, which he does, surviving the attack, but completely disrupting Rob's next turn. Jim recasts Sol Ring and casts Sylvan Offering for 4 with Chip and Kevin, giving Jim 4 1/1s and 1 4/4. Kevin gets a 4/4 and Chip gets 4 1/1s. At the end of Jim's turn, seeing he can't win the game, Stevie concedes, which heavily puts the game in Kevin's favor. Seeing that Rob can't kill Chip this turn, it ends up winning the game for Kevin because all he has to do on his turn is attack Jim, which he does, winning the game for Kevin and the Peer Through Time deck. We hope you enjoyed this game with Star Magic Commander with the new Commander decks. After this game, my contention is that using a Planeswalker as a commander is not a good idea, at least with how weak these Planeswalkers are. They never really did very much, they die easily, and there's little way to protect them, unlike creature commanders who can commander damage a player, can be saved or protected with things like Lightning Greaves, Pump Spells, Protection Spells, and Bounce effects. In this game, none of the commanders really seem to have much of a presence on the field, and paying more mana to cast them again and again after so many times makes them even worse. What do you guys think? Which are your favorite commander decks from the new set, and how do you feel about Planeswalker commanders? Let me know in the comments section, and thanks for watching.
Hurry up, do it.
Well, I just need to live.
You win.
This is true. Yeah, I'm just gonna overload Cyclonic Rift.
Okay. What the fuck? Yeah, you just win.
Is that all creatures?
Everything.
All permanents he doesn't
All permanents I don't control.
Why would you?
Why are we slow playing that?
Why the fuck would you slow play that?